First movement, the jab. Second movement, the lie. Look at verse 4. But the serpent said to the woman, "You will not surely die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Now, as you read this story, you're thinking, this isn't going to be any bait for her. They've already been made in the image of God. How much more like God could you be? But with the jab and then the lie, Satan begins reeling Eve in. And it's crazy. He doesn't say another thing in the story. He enters the story for 5 verses, utters 2 comments, leaves the story, and Eve is already on the slide down. First an attitude of the heart, then the lie for the mind. It's interesting to note the first thing Satan strikes down and goes after is the certainty of God's judgment. If you were Satan, wouldn't you hope that wasn't true either? First the jab, then the lie. Do you see what he's trying to get her to disbelieve? Or another way to say it, do you see what Satan is trying to get her to believe? Do you see what Satan's trying to put into the heart of humanity? Do you see it? If you obey God, you'll miss out. If you obey God, doors will get closed. If you obey God, your horizons will shrink. Don't you see? Don't you see? God is not for you. He's against you. He's oppressive. He's suppressive. He's the man trying to stick it to the blue-collar guys, so it's time to turn and stick it back to the man. He's narrow-minded. He is not for your happiness. If you want to be happy, you need to cut loose from the binding restrictions of this oppressive God who's just down on you, and you need to take things in your own hands. You need to act in your own interest. Then you'll be happy. Do you see what Satan is trying to undermine? He's not arguing against the existence of God. He's not even necessarily arguing against what God said. He's speaking words that place doubt in Eve's mind that would undermine her belief in the goodness of God. That's at the essence. He wants her to question whether or not God can be trusted. How do you know God's good? How do you know God's for you? He doesn't want you to be like Him, and so He's going to lash your legs with chains to this stake in the ground so you can't go anywhere. So for you to have happiness and joy and contentment, for you to reach your fullest potential, you need to cut the chain and be free from the restrictions of an oppressive God. That's the lie. Not that they would disbelieve that God exists, but that they would fail to believe that God is good. The lie went into the heart of man, and it's been there ever since. See, every sin you've ever committed or are currently committing has come because you're failing to believe that trusting and obeying God will bring about your ultimate goodness, because you're failing to trust and believe that God is good and that God is for you. So the sin underneath the sin is the unbelief and doubt and the second guessing of God, which means, in effect, you're putting yourself in the place of God. I know God says I shouldn't X, Y, Z, but did He really say that? I mean, He didn't know what I'm facing here in the 21st century. And in questioning God, you put yourself in the place of God, which is a place you're frankly not qualified to be.